December 2nd, 1991. Jasper came into his office after assuring a client that his wife was not cheating on him. It was good to have a happy ending for once. It was cases like these that made him know why he became a private eye. As he was passing his secretary's desk, he was greeted with, "Hey boss, there's an Alex King in your office. He said it was a surprise. Should I have let him in?" "Yes, Prissy, it's okay. Did I get any other messages while I was out?" "No, everything's quiet for a change." "That's good. Here's something I'd like you to read. Give the other 2 copies to Gerald and Jeff." Prissy accepted the articles, knowing by the heading it was another one from Pilgrimage. She knew Gerald and Jeff would do the same as she was going to do, and that is throw them in the garbage. They all would have a good laugh over it at lunch. Brainwash them? No way. They were doing just fine on their own, without getting messed up with what their boss had. What kind of God would even restrict what you can eat and drink? Well, as hard as their boss had tried to hide it, Prissy knew he was a hypocrite. Hadn't she discovered he had a drinking problem? Oh, he did a good job hiding it for as long as she knew him, but she found out the truth yesterday when he had forgotten to take home a birthday present that she had needed for a party that day. She had found him drunk in the office floor near the stairs where his room was above the office. He was so drunk he couldn't make it up the stairs. Some Christian he is, and he was so upset that she had married an unbeliever in Christ, because unbelievers don't believe that Christ and his way is the only way of salvation. Well, the Bible teaches you shouldn't get drunk. What a hypocrite. No, she wouldn't read anything he wanted her to, even if he paid her to do so. Jasper continued to his office where he greeted Alex, like they had known each other all their lives. But in truth, they had only just met at Mr. Robinson's funeral in October. Jasper was always glad to meet a kindred soul who wants to win the world for the Lord Jesus and his way, and surely Alex was such a man, for he wrote articles for Pilgrimage too. "Alex, it is so good to see you again. Let's get something to eat. I'm starved. How about you?" "Sounds good to me." While the 2 were driving, Alex soon noticed that every suggestion he made regarding where to eat, Jasper would shake his head and say, "No, not there." Not knowing Jasper very well, Alex asked, "Why not?" "I'm going to take you to my favorite place in town," Jasper replied. They finally arrived at a place where Alex instantly noticed it did not sell any liquor. This would not do, for Alex liked to have a beer with his meal, so he asked, "Jasper, why did you pick the only place in town that doesn't sell any liquor?" "That's why I like it here." "Well, that's fine for you, but what about me? I like to have a beer with my meals." "Aren't you afraid of developing a dependency on it?" "Of course not. I only drink socially. There's nothing wrong with that. Come on, be a good sport. Let's go where we both can have a good lunch. You're not one of those Christians that are against social drinking, are you?" "If I had my way, liquor would be destroyed from off the planet." "Oh, don't be like that. Everything in moderation, everything in moderation." Alex continued to browbeat Jasper into going where he wanted to go, so he could get his beer with his meal. When he succeeded, he even went as far as convincing Jasper he should have some too. It didn't take as much coaxing as he thought it was going to take. So Alex settled into the comfortable feeling that this new friend of his was going to be a good one, with which to fellowship in the Lord after all. They talked about everything that came into their minds and were having a blast when Jasper suddenly remembered he promised Susan he would ask Alex about that girl to whom Alex was supposed to write. What was her name? Oh, yeah, it was Crystal Matthews. Hey, Alex, are you going to write to Crystal Matthews? Susan told me all about it when I was at pilgrimage last. Oh, maybe I will. I'll have to give it some thought. You see, without going into a long song and dance, I just broke up with a longtime girlfriend, and I'm not sure I want to jump into another relationship right now. Oh, but by the sound of that girl's request, she'd like an answer either way. If you're not interested, then you'd better just say so the girl isn't left hanging. Yeah, I know. Would you mind if I wrote to her while you're making up your mind? Mind? It would be a relief. Maybe after I'm finished admonishing her, she will see it is better not to care about having a boyfriend, let alone a husband. The two laughed at this as they poured themselves another one for the road. Oh, Crystal, I'm so glad you are finally home. A letter from Pilgrimage came today for you. Quick, open it up. Crystal took the letter from Kelly's hand, wondering why Kelly would be so excited about her receiving a letter from Pilgrimage. Why was Kelly all of a sudden interested in Pilgrimage? She had never shown any interest in Pilgrimage before Mr. Robinson died. Upon opening up the letter, it contained the following. Dear Crystal, your letter of November 3rd was received. What you wrote was very interesting. We are returning the pictures of your friends as you may want to keep them for yourself. It is interesting to have in mind those you speak of in your letter. Work is going on as usual at the office. Most of the time we are very busy. Our December letter is written by another young man of 29 who always spoke of Mr. Robinson as his mentor. I am sure you will find the article very interesting. Trusting that you and your family are all well, we look forward to every opportunity to be of service. Sincerely yours, Susan Crosman. What do they mean by another young man? Is Alexander King going to write to you or not? This annoyance in Kelly's voice puzzled Crystal greatly. I don't know what it means. We'll just have to wait until December's trumpet alarm comes out, and maybe that will shed some light on what it means. Kelly could tell by the tone in Crystal's voice that there was no use arguing with her sister. One of Crystal's attributes that annoyed Kelly to no end was her sister's infinite patience and belief in that all things verse in the Bible. So before Crystal could remind her of it, Kelly threw it at Crystal instead. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Just for once, I wish God would do things the way we want them done. Crystal gave Kelly a concerned look because of the flagrant disrespect she was showing toward the Lord and his way. Kelly never liked it when Crystal gave her this look, so she continued. Oh, have it your own way. We'll wait for December's trumpet alarm. I'm going to go to Dan's house. I'll see you later. Crystal couldn't understand why Kelly was so upset. Crystal was thrilled at the idea of a new young man writing for Pilgrimage. She wondered what he would have to say. Maybe Pilgrimage was just trying to let her down easy. They had probably contacted Mr. King, and he was not interested in writing to her after all. However, knowing how much Crystal loved to receive the trumpet alarms, they thought that by telling her a new young man was now writing for Pilgrimage, that would help to heal the wound caused by the disappointment that Mr. King wasn't interested in writing to her. If this was the case, the girls were right, for Crystal was more interested in knowing that there were others that had not bowed down their knee to Baal than she was interested in anything of a personal nature for herself. For the Lord promises in Ecclesiastes 11:1, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days." If the Lord meant her to get married, then in his time it would come about. Until then, Crystal was learning more and more what Paul meant in Philippians 4:11. "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learnt, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content." Crystal did want to get married. It had been her dream since childhood. When she used to play with big dolls, she would watch how real mothers held their babies. Then she would go home and practice the same techniques with her dolls as if they had been real babies. However, the older Crystal got, the more she began to wonder if marriage was in the Lord's plan for her life after all. If not, she would have to learn how to let that childhood dream of hers die, and therefore face the truth. She was not meant to get married. There were worse things than being single, and one was to be unhappily married. Mr. Robinson, during one of her visits with him, had told her to make sure she really wanted to get married, because many people came to him lamenting the fact that they had gotten married. Crystal knew that if she could not find the fairy tale marriage relationship, then she would rather stay single. What good was love if it wasn't everlasting? Jesus' love for her was everlasting, and Paul says in Ephesians 5:25, "Husband, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it." Why then do Christians remarry after their spouses die, knowing that in the resurrection they will see their loved one again? Do Christians who remarry really love their spouses as Christ loved his bride Israel? Death did not set Christ free from being the husband of Israel. In fact, it was because of the death of Christ that provided the way for Christ to be able to be remarried to his bride Israel. Crystal loved to go to weddings, but she always hated the part in the wedding ceremony that allowed the marriage vow to be broken upon the death of one spouse. If she ever got married, that phrase would never be a part of her wedding ceremony. Instead, she wanted the "until death do us part" phrase replaced with something like this: "Although these two may be parted for a time because of the death of either one or the other, when the resurrection takes place, they will be reunited to continue their love for each other as they have pledged before all these witnesses here today." Finding a man that would stay true to her even if she died first was always a fear in the back of Crystal's mind. Therefore, she would just as soon stay single and not take the risk of getting married only to find that her husband didn't really love her truly, but had gone and married someone else after she died. So what if everyone around her thought she was crazy for feeling this way? The Lord understood her feelings, and he only wanted her to live happily ever after, too. So if he couldn't find someone for her that would be like himself, she was better off single.